The Two and Out CFL podcast with Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones starts now.
Yes, I am honored to preview week 16 of the CFL season with Sheldon Jones, the husband of the year. How you doing, Sheldon?
Husband of the year. Well, I'm doing great.
Most marriages do great when the partners involved get to spend quality time together. Mine thrives when I have a hobby that keeps me out of my spouse's hair. So there's the old, she's like, no, don't quit the podcast. Please don't. You need to be out of my hair for however many hours a week. So it works well. That's Happy belated birthday to my wife, Taylor, and your wife, Tammy. Let's start by talking about Canada going to Panama for the IFAF flag football event and coming back with a bronze medal. So that means they've qualified for the World Championships. And after that, next step is going to be the Olympics. I know we're going to have to get Lapo, maybe a player or two on the show in the future, hopefully before that World Championships in Germany, and talk some flag football.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of the first game. I was watching it on there, and those guys are athletes, and it's really cool. It's a different game. It's a little faster paced and smaller field, right? So, but it was entertaining, and hopefully lots of people can watch this. I know there's some people when I retweeted about the broadcast schedule, and they said they couldn't figure it out. So hopefully it's a little bit more straightforward going forward. But great to get a bronze medal. But we got to qualify for those Olympics because that's the big deal.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders on bye this week, but making some news as the season seat renewals go out. Not only have they formed a partnership with Co-op, where all of the tickets in the upper deck, the 600 section at Mosaic Stadium, are going to be $20 a game or $30 on Labor Day, and they're now working with the Saskatchewan government to get tailgating happening outside of Mount Mosaic Stadium. I think they've been a team that fans have felt a bit slighted by or taken for granted by over the last number of years. But these two steps seem like some steps in the positive direction for the Riders.
Yeah, I think they actually seem like they're giving a crap about the fans now. I think they took fans for granted for a long time, and just rode on the coattails of that Rider logo and just the Rider brand that they had established, and now people are starting to pull back a little bit for some things. So yeah, seeing this partnership with the Co-op, I think, is huge. Back in the day, they had a partnership, and I don't remember if they had ticket deals or not, but they did have like endorsement deals and like products inside. Like they had the Darios and the Fantus flakes. I have a couple boxes of each still in my basement that haven't been opened yet.
They haven't been open. When I went to the Grey Cup in Vancouver, I think it was 2011, which is kind of funny because the Riders were bad that year, and they had all these products out there. Man, we had a trunk full of all Dressler chips.
Yeah, the all Dresslers. So now I hope that they bring kind of some of that back. You can have your a Joe's or something like that. Like let's get creative here and keep going on these fun marketing ideas. And about tailgating, like let's go. Like this has been, it's ridiculous that Saskatchewan has such archaic liquor laws, but if they can get this working, might not be so good for a certain place I work at before games, but it would do good for fans being able to just pull up into a parking spot with a 24 pack of Costco hot dogs and light up your barbecue and have a few adult beverages and some hot dogs before you head into the game. Like that's what sport is all about. That's what being a fan is all about. Like, it's not just about the game, it's about the stuff outside of the game, and building, camaraderie with your fellow fans, and even fans from other teams. Like, I've gone to Banjo Bowl. I guess that's really the only a visiting tailgate I've ever experienced. And for as heated as, our fans can be, Rider fans and Bomber fans, everyone just feeds everyone at tailgates, and you just have a great time. So I'm excited for that to happen here. Now I just have to figure out a way to not work on Rider game days.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
That's future Sheldon's problem. The Riders also adding 2 players during this bye week, a global punter, but also a DB, Sheldrick Redwine.
What a name.
Yeah, I agree. Is it safe to say we're not going to see Exume starts for the Riders on the corner ever again?
Man, like, when it was probably a good thing that you did the recap by yourself this last one, because I had some things to say that I don't really need to anymore. But yeah, I've cooled down a little bit. I think the poor guy was like just let out to dry. Like, he's never other than a handful of plays, maybe because of injury.
There was no support either.
Yeah.
Like, he was just on an island.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, I was sitting in the stands before the game, and I saw that Sales and Campbell were both game time scratches. And I knew then, I was like, oh, good thing I have Tyson Philpott in fantasy. Because I knew that the Alouettes were going to have a day. And when you lose Revis and you lose Ray as well, like, he didn't have help. And the coaches should have, I don't understand. Because I was listening to, like, the 3 Down Nation podcast, and they were even talking about how it's not like Exume was starting because of the ratio. They actually had more than enough starters on more than enough Canadian starters. So they decided that he was the best guy for that spot. When Jaden Dalkey, you could have put at safety, and you could have moved whoever's safety, I can't even remember, over to that corner spot instead. And I think that would have been a lot better. But enough about that terrible game. Hopefully Exume can just stick to playing special teams, because he's actually pretty good at special teams, and maybe he doesn't necessarily deserve all the crap he's getting, but it was a rough night at the office for that.
It was a tough one. Now, Friday Night Football starts in Toronto. The Alouettes are now 6.5-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts. Now, this is unfortunate because at the beginning of the year, we look ahead to September and knowing or thinking that the Argos and the Alouettes are going to be battling for at least a home playoff game. We didn't know at the time where the RedBlacks and the Ticats were going to fit in, but we definitely thought we were going to see Davis Alexander taking on Chad Kelly. And now we're getting McLeod Bethel-Thompson of the Alouettes taking on Jarrett Dagey of the Toronto Argonauts. Nick Arbuckle's got a calf strain. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. Now, this is also interesting because Chad Kelly released that big comeback video a few weeks ago before the Argo bye, saying that he's going to come back September 13th. He ended up not even dressing. And on the Argo's website, he remains on the 6-game injured list. And the fact that if he was even close, like if he was 90%, you'd think for this game against the Alouettes, a team that they can actually still pass and host the East semifinal, one of the biggest games of the year, that maybe they would put him out there. But they're not. So I don't know if he's playing the rest of this year.
It doesn't, like... Yeah, I don't understand. The one thing, like, Dinwiddie is super, like, it seems like he's super transparent with about 90% of the Argos news. But when it comes to Chad Kelly, it's just this, I don't know if he's ready. I don't know. Like, it's give us something here. Like, this, I'm not saying I want Chad Kelly back playing, but like you said, we're getting down to crunch time. We're getting down to, a home playoff game is more money in your pockets, and apparently that's all the Argos and their ownership at least care about is money. So why wouldn't, you try to win some more games and get a home playoff game? Like, I don't know. Jarrett Deggy looked, pretty decent in relief last week. He was able to engineer the comeback, I guess, against the Bombers, and had a little chirp show with them saying, they cut me. That was kind of funny. I laughed at that. But this is baffling. But again, is McLeod Bethel Thompson going to look as good against a team that has starting cornerbacks playing? Maybe that has something to say here too.
Well, and that Ryder vaunted defensive line getting absolutely no pressure on McLeod. The Argos actually had a pretty good game on defense against the Elks. Well,
yeah. And sorry, it was Edmonton, not Winnipeg. That's my bad. Sorry.
The the Argos, on defense, turned it around in the second half, and their D-line was making things happen, which has to be pretty encouraging. If they can do that against the Alouettes, it's still... I don't know which way this game's going to go, because there's so many variables, and both teams clearly not at full strength. Davis Alexander, I thought he was getting close to playing, but he's just poking around the practice field. He's not in full dress either. So, hey, either way, the Argo defense at times this year, they've looked bad, and that is why they had lost so many games early in the year. Now, if they're showing the flashes of, at least being able to force turnovers and pressure the quarterback, they could give Montreal a pretty tough time here and stay in it. But I just have to side with the team that has more experience at QB. Daggy hasn't started a game since 2023 as a member of the Elks organization, and MBT seems to be obviously building some confidence and some chemistry with the likes of Phil Pott and Mack in that receiving core. And Tyler Sneed, who is now assigned a 2-year extension to stay with the Alouettes through 2027. He's still only 25. So the Alexander to Sneed connection could be going for several years in Montreal. But this does look like a game here where the Als can go on the road, and they got a big opportunity with MBT playing the team that he got a Grey Cup ring with in 2022.
They do, for sure. It just seems like the Argos could be right for the picking here. However, and I don't know if you saw this, but I did retweet it out on our Twitter today. Toronto is only the second team in CFL history to allow 30-plus points in 3 consecutive games and win all 3 games. The only other team to accomplish this was in 1994, and that was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So if you score a bunch of points on the Argos, it just seems, for whatever reason, they're able to come back and get that last second win, at least in the last 2 games here. So I just, again, I don't know what to say here. And that's with Nick Arbuckle up to a certain point last game. So I get that is going to change here a little bit too. But the one good thing that the Argos have is there's not going to be a lot of film work on Jarrett Daggy that the Als are going to be able to, look at to try to find out and pick out what his tendencies are. So we've seen numerous times where a guy comes in, has his first start, plays amazing because nobody has any film on him, and then he kind of shows out that he's, just third string for a reason or whatever. So, we're kicking off the week with a game that could be a crazy all-out shootout because of players missing, or it could just be a boring snooze fest because no one can get it going. Hopefully it goes the former.
I do think there's some fantasy opportunity here as we're looking for some value all over the place. And actually maybe both running backs in this game. Spencer Brown for the Argos coming on late. And also last week, Stevie Scott III for the Alouettes gets into the game. and has a great game against the Riders. And Travis Tice is ruled out. He hasn't practiced this week, dealing with an ankle injury. He left the game early against the Riders. Stevie Scott comes in and has a great game. For all the struggles in the secondary for the Riders, that really wasn't an excuse for the D-line or the linebackers not to be able to stop the run. And maybe it's because they were against a fresh running back that hasn't carried the load too much this year. But I believe that the Als, they had been sitting Sean Lemon and Sean Oakman. They're calling it load management. These guys are available. Cole Speaker is available, but still without, the likes of Ciante Evans, Davis Alexander, Travis Tice, and the like. If we do look at the injury report for the Argos, they are doing all right, but, now we're down to that third string quarterback that hasn't played for a while, and they're going to have to rely on that D-line. Hey, they won them the game against Edmonton, forcing that fumble and Chatfield taking it to the house. And we know what Wynton McManus does on a consistent basis. So it does remain a interesting game Friday night at BMO Field. And the second half of that doubleheader is in Cowtown. And this is a very intriguing game. Vernon Adams Jr. is going to want to get back at his old team for what happened last year. It's been, beaten like a dead horse. I get it. And I think most teams obviously would bring back Nathan Rourke if given the chance and go with the guy. I get it. But I think if you're Vernon Adams Jr., that's not going to make you feel any better. You finally had the team. You were playing MOP level football. You get hurt. The old guy comes in and you're just cast aside. So if that fires him up for Friday Night Football against the BC Lions, a team that also, like the Argos, struggling on defense, but last week did enough. Again, when the Lions had, 4 full possessions in the first half and they got 4 touchdowns, that doesn't hurt either. Can they do that again against this Calgary defense coming off the bye?
Yeah, that's tough to say. We were speaking off air about how unpredictable I think this week is going to be, and Rourke has something to prove too, because I think there's still a lot of people who actually think that they should have kept VA and not brought him back, right? So, but a glaring hole, Flo is not playing. So when he is not playing, that's when Calgary has had pretty poor defensive showings actually. And a team isn't all about one player or one star player, but when you're missing that one key piece, it affects the other pieces as well, right? So, to firepower, Rourke has all the tools. Is he going to have the time? That's the kind of the whole thing here, because, VA, I don't know if he does have all his tools, because, there's a couple of receivers that might not be ready.
Yeah, Jalen Philpott dealing with a foot issue, has not practiced this week. He may not practice. And we're also watching a couple names with the Stampeders, including receiver Malik Henry, who has not yet made his season debut, dealing with the knee issue. He remains limited in practice. I have to assume he will make an impact on this offense by the end of the year. And also linebacker Markel Lee. He started the first 2 games of the year dealing with the bicep injury. He had 15 tackles in the first 2 weeks of the year before getting hurt. However, defensive back Adrian Green looking to get back into the lineup for the Calgary Stampeders. The former BC Lion has been very valuable to that Calgary Stampeders secondary so far this season. A career high in interceptions. 4 of them, including 2 against the Argos back in week 2. And then in July, he had an interception against the Bombers, and the next week an interception against the Alouettes. So that Stamp secondary will be happy to have him back.
Yeah, and, with Rourke wanting to sling the ball into all those options he has there, Green's going to see some balls come his way, and he's like you said, this is his best year so far at picking them off. So we'll see if he adds to his total.
As for the BC Lions, in the last 2 weeks, it was against the RedBlacks, but the RedBlacks got some vets on O-line. Like they got some physical guys there. That BC Lions defensive line has really gotten physical, and especially last week, they were hitting Dustin Crum left and right. If they're going to be able to rattle VA, all of a sudden, like you said, a very intriguing week, an unpredictable week is Matthew Betts and company. Like he basically doubled his sack totals in one night. And the Stamps, they had to get a rookie on the O-line last time they played against Edmonton. And the protection wasn't there for VA. If they're going to be doing that, maybe the BC Lions could have another successful night on defense, and they're going to have to if they want to win. That being said, and it is do or die more for the Lions than it is for the Stampeders. Of course, the Stamps want to host the West Final. The Lions just want to get in either way. So both teams have something to play for here on Friday night.
For sure. And like you said at the top, VA is going to try to prove, BC wrong. I kind of worry about some of these games where VA tries to prove his former teams. Sometimes I think he gets in his head a little bit, and he, tries to maybe overcompensate or try to do too much. And if he is going to be facing some pass rush and having to make those quick decisions, I hope for him he's able to, have a clean game and show the BC Lions exactly what they're missing. But, as a Rider fan, of course, I don't want that to happen. But, he has to bounce back from a tough loss. They went on by after a really tough loss in Edmonton on the Labor Day rematch. And, Stamps coming out of a bye usually is a pretty good thing for them, and they have a lot to play for. Like you said, with the Riders losing to Montreal, now they're only 2 games behind, and they have the tiebreaker, right? So it's kind of this is the perfect time for them to gain that win back, and then you're only 1 game behind, and and BC, they're in the crossover spot right now, technically, and tied with Winnipeg as well. But Winnipeg has the season series. So, they, again, when you see Winnipeg losing Caleros and most likely having Strevler start again, this is the perfect time for BC to try to gain that get a leg up in the Western Conference instead of having to travel all the way east.
Calgary fans are going to come at me again on Facebook, but it's real. If the Stamps and the Lions haven't played yet this year, the Lions are 6-7. The Stamps are 8-4. I don't think that the Stampeders can fall apart, but some key players are hurt. If the Lions sweep this season series, it could happen.
Oh, for sure.
It really could. So if the Lions win here, anything is in play. Whether your ego as a fan can take it or not, everything is still in play. Only thing is decided is that the Riders are going to be in the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is still up for grabs. The Lions injury report is interesting. A lot of key guys are questionable. Jarrell Broxton on the O-line. James Butler, the leading rusher in the CFL, questionable with a thigh issue. Javon Katoy, questionable with an ankle issue. We saw him limping around last week against the RedBlacks. Gary Peters is questionable. I'll say that he's kind of been in that questionable mode for the last few games. He got in there last week. I think he limited Geno Lewis to 1 catch on 2 yards. I wonder if Gary Peters, the best part of his game is his mouth. So I kind of want some CFL Wired back the next time those two guys go head to head.
Absolutely. Yes. We need to bring that back 100%.
And Dejon Allen, offensive lineman, listed as out for the BC Lions. So some key injuries, key pieces moving around that could really affect the games coming up this weekend. And we got a doubleheader again on Saturday. We start in Ottawa, where the RedBlacks host the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll start with the Bombers here, and the cloud hanging over the team is Zach Collaros. He's been around practice, very limited from what I've been seeing. Thursday is going to say a lot. I still don't expect him to play, but a couple weeks ago, it was expected, at least among fans, that we might not see him again this year. The confidence in Chris Streveler is waning amongst Bomber fans, to say the very least, but it's clear that the Bombers don't believe that they can win games with Terry Wilson. And is that on the Bombers for not trying to find a better third string option to develop through the season to this point? That probably is the fatal mistake of that team right now.
Yeah, you go all the way back to last season when Zach Collaros nearly lost a finger in the Grey Cup, and they decided that they couldn't go to Terry Wilson. They had to get Zach Collaros back in there and trying to throw 40 or 50-yard passes when he can't feel his finger and can't grip the ball tight, and just started chucking ducks and throwing picks left and right and handed the Toronto Argonauts the Grey Cup. So you knew then that you weren't willing to go to Terry Wilson. Why did you bring him back? You could have went out and got Jake Mayer. You could have went out and got McLeod Bethel-Thompson. You could have went out and got Cody Fajardo. I understand.
Could you imagine if they made the play for Fajardo? I think the Bombers would be in really good shape right now.
Oh, for sure they would. And, this comes down to Mike O'Shea. I think everyone can agree he's a great head coach. He's one of the best in the CFL. However, the very best ones in the CFL over the past 20 years or whatever realize that players have end dates, and realize that when a player's not doing something, you move on from them. O'Shea is so loyal to his players. I think he's loyal to a fault, and it seems like he's loyal to a fault to a guy named Chris Streveler. 2 or 3 years ago, Chris was the best in the league at third and ones or quarterback sneaks. He's not anymore. I wouldn't even say he's in the top third. Tommy Stevens is definitely the best one, and they're not they don't even use Streveler for short yardage when he's in there now. They actually let Wilson come in for that.
He's been successful at that. Yeah, Wilson has been.
Yeah. But according to our friends in Winnipeg, our anonymous source friends, he can't throw a 5-yard pass. He can't throw a 15-yard pass. So if they see that in practice and they realize that unless Chris Streveler gets injured and Zach Collaros is not dressed, we're not going to see Wilson attempt a pass or play anything other than short yardage, then if I'm a Bomber fan, I don't think I'm making the playoffs, because right now, and apologies to Bomber fans, apologies to Zach. Zach's made of glass right now. He's getting hurt at hits that are just a centimeter away from being a completely legitimate hit. And I don't think it was the face mask of Revis hitting his helmet that caused the damage. It was landing on his head after, I think, or the whiplash of his neck.
There's some speculation that he got his bell rung on Labor Day or early in that Banjo Bowl, and that was
there was another hit in the Banjo Bowl where he didn't get up for 5 seconds. Where's the injury spotter? they let Trevor Harris get up and he was all wobbly, and then after the game he said he was having calf cramps. Really? Like, okay, it just, they're so tough about player safety when it comes to, challenges and finding players, but it doesn't seem like they're actually watching for that stuff in the games right now. But again, that's me on my soapbox. But the Bombers are in a Grey Cup year, like at home.
Doesn't this
And
mirror the 2022 Riders?
yes, it does, because we all said that O'Day didn't do enough to
Yeah.
get the team there, right? And
Now,
it's
Bomber fans, I'll just say this. Hopefully the Grey Cup halftime show is better than the 2022 version and we don't mirror it that way. But
maybe we'll get half of Wilson Phillips or something. I would love Wilson Phillips, by the way, please.
I actually really hate to bring this up. Remember, like, the salary cap went up a lot of money, like, after free agency was open for almost a week. Like,
Yeah.
could there have been a path for the Bombers to have kept somebody like... This doesn't help the quarterback position, but maybe Lawler stays in Winnipeg.
But Lawler himself even said they signed
Yeah, he did.
they
Dylan
signed
Mitchell.
Mitchell first before even like trying to sign him. So like, and that's not shade at Mitchell. It's just like, but when you put out a statement in a year that you are hosting the Grey Cup, yeah, the salary cap is going up, but we're not going to spend it. We're going to spend it what it was last year. What are you telling your fans?
And with all those
Like,
sellouts, like...
Yeah, are they like I'm worried that the Bombers are going to do exactly what the Riders did and just sellouts after sellouts, and you won some Grey Cups and you got merch sales, and then it's like we don't need to do anything anymore. And then you take advantage of them and then they stop coming. Like, we don't need that in the CFL. Like, you're the team that makes the most money. It used to be the Riders. Now it's you guys. And you're telling your fans that the year you're hosting the Grey Cup, you're not going to spend all the money you can in the salary cap. It just doesn't make sense. And they're starting to see the errors of that, I think. For sure, fans are.
Yeah. Yeah, I know patience is wearing thin on Osh, and we'll see where this goes for the Bombers.
But also, that's a shame. Your party's over, Bomber fans. Sorry.
Are we at the point where the RedBlacks can play the spoiler? Like, they could. Drew Brown. I mean, maybe the Bombers really should have done their damnedest to hang on to this guy. Now, he's been in and out of the lineup, injured for the RedBlacks. So the RedBlacks fans will... Maybe they would say, they could keep this guy. But we've seen what Drew Brown can do when healthy. And the RedBlacks rush defense, they're not pushovers, man. Like, they're actually... you can make plays on them through the air, but that is not Winnipeg's strength right now. So I don't know. Although that play last week when... Hamilton was not ready. Like, when you're like 5 years old and your little like sibling beats you at something, I wasn't ready, doesn't count. And hey, look, Strevler made that play to Ontario Wilson. But I think the RedBlacks are going to be, well, at least they should be. The amount of times this season that they start trailing by several score, like if the game was 6 quarters long, I think the RedBlacks, they could be like 12-3 or something. But they always start like garbage and then fight back, and then the time just runs out. So if the RedBlacks...
I thought you were talking about the Riders for a second there.
If the RedBlacks can get off to a good start here, maybe they're in good shape. Because the Winnipeg secondary has also struggled at times this year. And if you're going to have Justin Hardy and Geno Lewis and Khalil Pimpleton, get those guys the ball. I do look at the injury report for the RedBlacks, and I'm interested to see William Stanback has not practiced this week. I wonder if that means another value play at CFL Fantasy with Daniel Adeboboye, who, when he's got the ball this season, has made the most of his opportunity. Devontae Dedmon practicing in full. I don't know if this means that there's a path for him to get back onto the game day roster and start making some plays for the RedBlacks again. But I feel like if this is another big game, and if the Bombers don't win this and they move to 6-8, yeah, there is a path for them to miss the playoffs. It is contingent on BC winning some games, to make that happen. But the fact that these Bombers are 2-5 on the road, trending down, this could be the beginning of a complete meltdown the rest of the way.
Well, it could be, but also with 5 games left, Ottawa is 4-9. Like it's not impossible for them to actually still make the playoffs. And if they can get a win against the Bombers right now, who, like BC, they're in the crossover spot right now, technically, like same amount of wins. So only 2 wins up. If they can squeeze that gap to 1 game, and if BC ends up winning, like we could have, and then if Toronto beats Montreal, or see, this is what I love. Like we were so dead set on how there's going to be a crossover 5 weeks into the season, and now we're like, there might not be, because these teams are starting to catch up, and we're not like, yeah. I don't know here, man. Like
the RedBlacks still haven't had the season series decided with Montreal.
Right.
They lost to the Owls by 3 scores in week 2, but that was the Davis Alexander Montreal Alouettes on fire. They got a home and home with them Thanksgiving, and then later that week, the Saturday.
So that means that the 3 scores or whatever doesn't even matter, because if they can win these 2 games, then they like leapfrog Montreal basically.
I do have a tough time seeing Ottawa sweeping the Owls there, for sure. But the destiny is still in their hands. Like they still have some control about where they're going to fall here. And with Drew Brown back into the fold, anything can happen with that RedBlacks team as long as they can keep some of those big plays in front of them. They got a shot here. I will mention this, Sheldon. RedBlacks going into the bye. So
right. Yeah, there is that.
The way that this season's gone, maybe Winnipeg goes there and wins 49-1, and this conversation was just silly. But so that's why this week feels like it could go any which direction. And I'm here for it. It wraps up in the Hammer, where the Ticats are home to the Elks. It is the Hall of Fame game, and the class of 2025 includes Brian Chu, who was recently on the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast, so check out that interview. Jermaine Copeland, Scott Flagel, Daryl Hall, Glenn Johnson. Oh no, that brings back memories of 2009. Frank McChrystal served as the head coach of the Regina Rams starting in 1984. Jovan Olafioye, BC Lions legend. And then the media wing, including Paul Friesen and Judy Owens. So there you go, the Hall of Fame game in the Hammer. I felt like the Elks' path to splitting the 2 Eastern games was probably last week in Toronto. And now they're traveling out east again to play the Ticats. This one does feel like a bit of a tall mountain to climb for the green and gold squad.
It does, but, Hamilton's a very Jekyll and Hyde team, it seems. They're very, they can win and they can also not win. So it's an interesting matchup, because I think the Elks, if they would have been able to hang on against Toronto, they would have had so much momentum coming into this game, and I think they would have been able to use that. But they're still, like we say, if we're talking about Ottawa still having a chance at the playoffs, I guess we do kind of still have to say that Edmonton has a chance here too, because they're only one game back of both Winnipeg and BC. And, both of those guys, if they could both could lose this week. And if Edmonton is able to go into Hamilton and steal a win, we have a three-way tie for third place, not counting tiebreakers, in the West Division. And that makes things very, very interesting going down the stretch here. So I think Hamilton's going to be focused. I think they're going to be pissed off, especially with how the game against Toronto ended, with Dinwiddie's antics and a player having to stop Killam from coming over there. I kind of wish that the player didn't stop it to see what would actually happen.
Yeah, who do you take, the old quarterback or the old linebacker?
Depends on if Kelly's had dipped into his drawer or not. I think that's how I would figure out, because
I'm taking Killam either way, man.
yeah, I would take Killam too, to be honest.
It's really irresponsible.
He could have that Frank Gallagher in him, maybe. So take a few punches, right? So, but like I said, Edmonton's gonna be pissed. They should have won that game. What team goes in and gets 6 turnovers and loses the game? Like, unbelievable. So, and Bo is a guy who's going to be chucking that rock too. So, all these interceptions they got, all these sacks they've got in the past couple games, it's like their defense is finally playing like what, a lot of us thought it should be on paper when the season first started. So, they're becoming a contender here, and if they are able to somehow get a win here next week against Saskatchewan, if some of these guys from Saskatchewan aren't able to get back after the bye week, they could topple Goliath in the West Division there. So we'll have to see what happens.
What has been a big change for the Ticats over the last couple of weeks is the balance in the offense and the amount they've been running the ball. And Greg Bell has been running wild, and he's been getting chunks of yards all over the field. Mm-hmm. But look what the Elks have done to opposing running backs over the past 2 games. Last week against the Argonauts, Spencer Brown, 10 carries, 35 yards. And then the Labor Day rematch against the Stampeders, Dedrick Mills had 8 carries and 38 yards. So, basically 73 yards. Hopefully my math didn't fail me there. The past 2 games against starting running backs, if they take Greg Bell out of it, it's forcing the aerial attack of the Hamilton Tiger Cats to get at the Elks. But hey, those Elks, again, if they're able to force those turnovers, they're in good shape. Basically, doubling their interception total in one game. And what I'm noticing, those Elks DBs, if you give them a shot, like if you're a receiver jumping in the air, they do not care. I think we've seen Tyrell Ford deliver a few German suplexes a few times this season. And then last week, I'm a big supporter of it. Jumping Jake, hurdling Jake, touchdown Jake. Tried the hurdle and Jackson met him in midair and headbutt him. So I think the receivers are going to have to start keeping their head on a swivel with that Elks defense.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you try to get cute a little too many times, you force your hand. But now I can't wait to see somebody fake a hurdle and throw a spin move and just break a DB's ankle. We can see that. But you're right. Like, if they can make Hamilton one-dimensional, then I think they have a way better chance here. But like you said, when Hamilton has had this more balanced attack, they have looked a lot more strong on offense. So, but Edmonton, if I know Rankin's not going to get over 200 yards every game, but just the speed that he has, if he is able to get in space, his breakaway speed, like, he has the potential to really hurt that Tiger Cat defense.
And that's a big thing for the Ticats. A lot of times special teams gets overlooked, but Janarian Grant at the end of the first half against the Elks last week, putting him right into field goal position, and that was a critical moment in that game. And as Isaiah Wooden of the Ticats is set to return. Hey, this guy won Roy Lister from BC. He was one half of winning this guy $1 million. Wooden has been a massive strength for the Ticats, and when he's been out, you've noticed a big difference. So if we're going to get Leak versus Wooden, doing returns for each respective team, could be some fireworks on Saturday.
Absolutely, and that's another reason actually why I think Edmonton's going to be super upset, because the way that ended in the first half there, with them taking that time count penalty and then still punting, and with Grant getting that return there, technically that's the game right there. They could have taken a safety, and they could have then, if everything else stayed the same, went to overtime instead of losing by 1 point. So I think, just even the threat of having that returner there is going to make Killam and them a little, question some choices and make sure that they're not making those type of mistakes in key moments.
And hey, just like the Elks need to make Hamilton one-dimensional, if the Ticats do that to the Elks, the Ticats win this game. Hamilton's receiving core is more experienced, more dynamic than Edmonton's at this point. I look at Hamilton over the last couple games. When they played Montreal, of course, it was against James Morgan, so it's tough to look at the running backs, but 17 carries, 95 yards between Travis Tice and Sean Thomas Erlington, and Brady Oliveira had 15 carries for 116 yards. So if Rankin can get going, Edmonton is in good shape. I do look at the injury report. Kyler Fisher has been racking up the tackles for the Ticats. He hasn't practiced this week, but Devin Verasek has, and we saw him leave the field on a cart with precautionary reasons because of his neck, and the fact that he's practicing in full, it's so good to see. But hey, these rookies, I guess they heal a little bit faster, Sheldon. We'd still be in the bed.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy when, the next day he tweeted out a picture of himself on the golf course. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, thank goodness he's okay. But, maybe a little extra precaution there. But, it's great to see him back because, he's been one of those impact rookies that's been making an impact, and the most outstanding rookie race is going to be a very tight one this year, and that's probably one of the awards I'm actually looking forward to the most, just to see who's actually going to get the respective nods from the two divisions.
Last year's most outstanding rookie, Nick Anderson, had to leave last week's game against Toronto with a hip issue, and he hasn't practiced. And defensive lineman Jared Brinkman, shoulder/foot. This guy sounds like me. Like he's got injuries all over the place. He hasn't practiced this week, and so unfortunate to see Royce Metier, Achilles injury, not practicing. When you see Achilles, you have to think it might be in a while before we see him back on the football field. It did seem like he was smiling on the crutches on the sideline against the Argonauts. I don't know if it was an ironic smile where he's like, not again, man. But it's good to have at least some sort of smile for him there as we get ready for the Elks and Ticats on Saturday. And with the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation coming up in less than 2 weeks, teams are going to start rolling out and wearing those special Indigenous-themed helmets. Like those logos, CFL-wide, have all looked great. I know the BC Lions are hosting the Orange Shirt Game for the 5th straight year, so I know we're going to see some of those logos this week and probably see the rest next week. And all for a great cause, all for raising awareness. And hey, that just goes to show these teams are cultural fabric in Canada, something to be proud of. And I love the logos that all of them have rolled out over the past couple of years.
Yeah, the logos are awesome. The awareness that this initiative brings is awesome, and I look forward to it every year. Especially, this year when the Riders released the color version of their Indigenous logo, I went and snapped up a hat as soon as I could. If I had that Dave Stadnick money, I'd get hats of all the teams, but don't quite have that. No, I'm just joking. That was a gift from his family, so I'm just funning you, but just a little bit jealous of that sick hat collection he has there. But like I said, all the logos are awesome, and I love seeing them and seeing the teams take part in this, especially now that all of the teams are actually doing it.
Before we get to your power rankings, fantasy, pick'em, USports news, as they've changed its transfer rules starting next season, which allows first and second year student athletes to transfer without penalty. So that's going to create some interesting times in USports. And this week, Montreal playing McGill on Friday, U of R playing the U of S. Also on Friday,
3-0 U of R.
3-0 Rams taking on the Huskies. We got the Dinos and the Thunderbirds on Friday. St. Mary's, St. FX on Saturday. Laurier and the Ottawa GGs. Guelph McMaster, Windsor Toronto, Laval Concordia, Carleton York, Queens Waterloo, Bishops Acadia, and Alberta Manitoba. There we go. USports football happening this coming weekend. Sheldon, I think I've got the right power rankings ready to go, so let's throw them up on the screen heading into week 16.
You may have them ready to go, but maybe I don't. Just kidding. They're here. So yeah, I had a little bit of movement here, quite a lot of movement actually. So the Riders stayed at 1. I know that's going to be controversial, but I don't care. Calgary didn't play. They didn't win. They lost the week before, so I can't really move them up there. So, but moving up is Toronto and Hamilton. Both getting some wins there and knocking the Bombers down to 5. The Elks stayed at 6. BC moving up to 7. Montreal moving up to 8 with their win over the Riders, and the RedBlacks falling down to 9. So we got a new weakest link, but that could change this week again. We'll have to see.
We will have to see. I know it's your goal, to see Winnipeg in that 9 spot by the end of the year. It could happen.
Boy, would that might be almost as good as a Rider Grey Cup, but not quite as much.
Let's look at our fantasy lineups. I got $300 left, and I actually feel pretty decent about my lineup. I don't know about my quarterback. I'll figure it out. And I also I wish I could pick touchdown Jake Herslow, but I don't know if I can with Jared Dagey throwing him the ball. But hey, he's your quarterback. I'll let you go with that, brother. I'm going with MBT as my QB. Dedrick Mills as my RB1. Stevie Scott III as my RB2. And my receivers are going to be Kenny Lawler, Justin McInnes, and Ontario Wilson. And my defense, the Alouettes, going against Jared Dagey and the Argos. Spoiler alert, Sheldon's fantasy quarterback.
That is right. I'm trying something here. We'll see if it works out. So Jared Dagey is my quarterback. My running backs, because Jared Dagey is only $5,000. Brady Oliveira and Justin Rankin. My receivers, I have Kenny the King Lawler, Nick Dembski, and my flex is Mr. Stevie Scott III.
Well, your team's loaded up, man.
And I have the Ottawa RedBlacks defense because they are, again, the cheapest. Oliveira is my captain. I'm not confident enough to make Daggy my captain. This will go well or horrible. We will see.
And it's you and me in the CFL Podcast Fantasy League.
Again? I thought that was last week.
I think I screwed up.
Oh.
That when you played the league average, and is this terrible. Week 16? Last week, you beat Safamod.
Oh. And Safamod's like first place, isn't he?
And I lost to Greg from Piffle's podcast.
Yeah, nobody likes Greg.
So, this week, it looks like it's you and me. And my record is 6-9. So can I just quit the league?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm quitting the league.
You've rebounded quite a bit in that.
I have not enough, but I have. Oh, the Patreon Fantasy League. That's the one that I really want to get back in, but it's not going well.
It's tough. Fantasy is a crapshoot right now. It's the player valuations are ridiculous, and it's hard to actually pick a good team. Like it's tough.
I'm good at picking players
5,000 quarterback.
I'm good at picking players that get hurt in the first quarter and don't return. That's been my strength.
That's like me and my 4-point game. My 4-point game is the first game of the week.
Okay, week 16 of the CFL season starts in Toronto. The Alouettes arrive as 6.5-point favorites. The Calgary Stampeders host the BC Lions as 5.5-point favorites. The Stamps are the RedBlacks 2.5-point favorites at home over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the Ticats are 5.5-point favorites at home over the Edmonton Elks. Okay, I'm going Ticats, RedBlacks, Stampeders, Alouettes. I'm going to get torn apart in the comments. Everyone's going to call me an idiot again. I'm ready for it. But Sheldon, who are you going with?
Okay, so we're kind of a little bit different here. So I am also going with the Ticats and the RedBlacks, but I'm picking the Lions and I am picking the Argos. But I'm not confident in any of my picks because I think I kind of want to roll the dice on all underdogs, but I think the Ticats are going to do it here. So if it wasn't for that, I would be rolling all underdogs.
That's week 16 of the 2025 CFL season as it winds down and it remains just as unpredictable, in my opinion, as it was in week 1. You can rate, review, and subscribe to 2 and Out on your favorite podcatcher. Check us out on YouTube as well if you want to look at our beautiful faces. You can support the show on Patreon and check out the website 2andout.ca. You can find all the links to find us anywhere on the internet. For Sheldon Jones, I'm Travis Currah. Enjoy week 16.
The 2 and Out CFL podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Travis Currah and co-hosted by Sheldon Jones. Subscribe to 2 and Out on all major podcast platforms and YouTube to keep up to date with future shows.